On the 26th of June 2024, Bolivia was shaken by an attempted military coup. Armed soldiers took to the streets of the capital, directly confronting the president. The country, already marked by a history of political turbulence, economic crisis, and social unrest, now faces a new threat to its fragile democracy. Watch until the end to understand all these events and their consequences. Bolivia, located in the heart of South America, is a landlocked country bordered by Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, Chile, and Peru. With a population of around 11 million people, Bolivia is a mosaic of cultures and ethnicities. Spanish is the official and most widely spoken language, but various indigenous languages also hold official status. The majority of the population is Catholic, although there is a significant presence of indigenous religions that coexist with Christianity. Geopolitically, Bolivia holds a unique position. Its allies include countries such as Venezuela and Cuba, with which it shares ideological and historical ties through leftist movements in Latin America. These ties were strengthened during the years of Evo Morales' government. In contrast, Bolivia has tenser relations with the United States, which has historically been involved in the country's internal affairs, often supporting political opposition. The relationship with Chile is also marked by historical disputes, especially the loss of access to the sea after the War of the Pacific in the 19th century. The current political crisis in Bolivia has deep roots in the country's recent history. Since the election of Evo Morales in 2006, Bolivia has undergone significant transformations, with policies aimed at social inclusion and the nationalization of natural resources. These measures brought economic progress and poverty reduction, but also generated controversy and resistance, particularly among economic elites and wealthier regions such as Santa Cruz. Morales was re-elected several times, but his attempt to remain in power indefinitely led to accusations of authoritarianism and electoral fraud, culminating in the tumultuous year of 2019, when he resigned and went into exile. With the election of Luis Arce, former Minister of Economy under Morales, in 2020, there was hope for stabilizing the country. However, economic and social challenges persisted, exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Inflation, unemployment, and social protests continue to pressure the government. Furthermore, the possibility of Morales returning to the presidency in the upcoming elections has generated intense political tensions. It is against this backdrop of instability that the attempted military coup of the 26th of June 2024 occurred, marking another chapter in Bolivia's turbulent political history. But how did this attempted coup unfold? What were the events and motivations that led to this dramatic action? On the 26th of June 2024, Bolivia was stunned by a dramatic attempted military coup. On that day, armed soldiers, led by General Juan José Zúñiga, took to the streets of the capital, La Paz. The troops occupied strategic positions around Plaza Murillo, surrounding the presidential palace and Congress. Tensions reached their peak when Zúñiga directly confronted President Luis Arce, who ordered the immediate withdrawal of the soldiers. However, Zúñiga refused to comply, claiming that his objective was to restore democracy and the dignity of the Bolivian people. The attempted coup was the culmination of a series of political and social tensions that have plagued Bolivia in recent years. Evo Morales, who governed Bolivia from 2006 to 2019, was a controversial leader. During his time in power, he implemented policies that nationalized natural resources and reduced poverty, but he also sought to extend his mandate beyond constitutional limits. In 2016, a referendum rejected his attempt to run for a fourth term. Morales, however, appealed to the Supreme Court, which ruled in his favor, allowing his candidacy in 2019. That year's elections were marked by allegations of fraud, resulting in massive protests and his subsequent resignation and exile in Mexico. Morales' return to Bolivian politics, announced for the upcoming elections, rekindled tensions. Upon hearing this news, General Zúñiga vowed to prevent Morales' candidacy and was consequently dismissed from his position in the army. Zúñiga saw his dismissal as a direct attack on his promise and the integrity of the armed forces. He argued that Morales' re-election would be a violation of the constitution and a threat to democracy. This conviction led Zúñiga to orchestrate the coup, believing he was acting in defense of the people and the constitution. On the day of the coup, hundreds of soldiers, accompanied by dozens of armored vehicles, occupied the main streets and access points of La Paz. The convergence on Plaza Murillo, the heart of political power in Bolivia, marked a moment of high tension. The presidential palace was surrounded, and Zúñiga, in front of journalists and the public, declared that the objective was to restore democracy. The response of the current president, Luis Arce, former Minister of Economy under Evo Morales and now his political rival, was swift and forceful, ordering the immediate withdrawal of the troops and denouncing the action as a clear attempt at a coup d'état. However, the coup began to collapse by the end of the same day. Unexpectedly, General Zúñiga ordered the withdrawal of his troops from Plaza Murillo and announced the end of the coup attempt. One of the main reasons for the failure was the lack of support within the armed forces themselves. Many high-ranking commanders and generals refused to support Zúñiga, significantly weakening his position and forcing him to retreat. Additionally, Arce's swift and decisive response, along with popular mobilization in defense of democracy, helped dismantle the coup attempt. The situation became even more complex when Zúñiga claimed that the coup attempt was actually a scheme planned in conjunction with President Arce. He alleged that during a meeting on the 23rd of June, Arce suggested that a military action could boost the government's popularity. These allegations, although serious, were not accompanied by concrete evidence. Arce quickly condemned the action, dismissed the entire previous military leadership, and appointed new commanders. Zúñiga and other involved military personnel were arrested and accused of treason. President Arce and former President Morales called on the population to resist the coup and defend democracy. Despite previous protests and popular dissatisfaction that led former President Evo Morales to resign in 2019, his policies were favoured by most Bolivians and he enjoyed popularity in the country. However, the uncertainty about the true nature of the events left the population divided and increased internal tensions. If Zúñiga's allegation is true, it would indicate an alarming level of political manipulation and an even greater threat to Bolivian democracy. On the other hand, if it is a false accusation, the coup attempt represents a serious challenge to Arce's authority and the constitutional order in the country. Additionally, the Bolivian left claims that this coup attempt was financed by the United States in response to Bolivia's growing closeness with China, given that Bolivia has large lithium reserves, and having access to this lithium with a government more favourable to the West rather than China would be in American interests. Either way, the ongoing investigations will be crucial to clarify these events and determine the veracity of the allegations. Do you believe there is American interest in a military coup in Bolivia? Or was this purely a poorly planned act of betrayal? Share your opinion in the comments. And in the face of this chaotic scenario, what were the international responses? The attempted coup in Bolivia quickly attracted the attention and condemnation of several countries and international organizations. The Organization of American States, OAS, was one of the first to respond, vehemently condemning the action and expressing concern for democratic stability in Bolivia. The OAS emphasized the importance of respecting the democratic process and the country's constitution, calling on all involved parties to resolve their differences through dialogue and establish legal mechanisms. The United States also issued an official statement condemning the coup attempt and reaffirming its support for the democratically elected government of Luis Arce. The US government emphasized the need to protect democratic institutions in Bolivia and offered assistance to help maintain constitutional order. The statement highlighted the country's commitment to democracy in Latin America and rejected any form of military interference in political processes. Brazil, a leader in Latin America, had a particularly strong response. Through an official communique, the Brazilian government condemned the coup attempt and expressed unconditional support for the government of Luis Arce. The Brazilian president stressed the importance of democratic stability in the region and offered diplomatic assistance to mediate the situation if necessary. Furthermore, Brazil highlighted the need for peaceful and democratic solutions to resolve political tensions in Bolivia, reinforcing its commitment to non-interference and the defense of democratic processes throughout Latin America. Other Latin American countries, including Mexico, Argentina and Chile, also expressed their solidarity with the Bolivian government and condemned the coup attempt. But what is the current economic and social situation in Bolivia and how did it influence the coup attempt? The attempted military coup on the 26th of June 2024 is closely linked to Bolivia's precarious economic situation and the political tensions arising from Evo Morales' potential candidacy in the upcoming elections. The Bolivian economy has struggled with rising inflation and increasing costs of living, profoundly impacting low-income families. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated these difficulties, with a significant rise in unemployment, especially among the youth, creating an environment of frustration and despair. These economic factors fuel social dissatisfaction, which has become a fertile ground for political instability. Bolivia's reliance on its natural resource exports, such as natural gas and minerals, has further aggravated the economic crisis. The nationalization of these resources during Evo Morales' government initially brought economic benefits, but falling international prices and declining global demand have reduced the country's revenue. This has limited the government's ability to implement sustainable development and economic diversification policies, deepening the crisis and increasing Bolivia's economic vulnerability. Luis Arce's economic policy, focused on stimulating the economy through social assistance programs and tax incentives for small and medium-sized enterprises, has faced significant obstacles. The lack of financial resources, combined with ongoing political instability, has hindered the effective implementation of these policies. Additionally, resistance from conservative sectors and political opposition has impeded substantial progress, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty and mistrust. The announcement of Evo Morales' potential candidacy in the upcoming elections has rekindled old tensions. General Juan José Zúñiga and other members of the armed forces saw this possibility as a direct threat to the constitution and democracy. Morales' attempt to run for a fourth term in 2019, despite a plebiscite rejecting this possibility, left a deep mark on Bolivian politics. The Supreme Court's decision to allow his candidacy, followed by allegations of electoral fraud, resulted in massive protests and Morales' eventual resignation. The notion that Morales could return to power was seen as a violation of democratic norms, leading Zúñiga to orchestrate the coup attempt as a means to prevent this outcome. The failed coup attempt highlighted the deep divisions and ongoing instability within Bolivia. The question now is how Arce's government can restore confidence in democracy and address the issues within the armed forces. Speaking of which, what role do the Bolivian military play in political matters? The Bolivian armed forces have an official role in defending the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the country, as well as ensuring internal security when necessary. Historically, the Bolivian army has been called upon to act in various internal crises, including controlling protests and maintaining order during periods of instability. However, its role goes beyond national defense, frequently involving itself in the political dynamics of the country. This interference has deep roots in Bolivia's political history, marked by coups d'état and military regimes. The interference of the armed forces in Bolivian politics has significant consequences. When the army attempts to control or influence politics, democracy and the rule of law are jeopardized. The attempted coup on the 26th of June 2024 is a clear example of how such intervention can destabilize the government and create insecurity among the population. The perception of an army acting on political interests rather than defending the constitution and its citizens undermines trust in democratic institutions and can lead to a vicious cycle of instability and violence. Furthermore, the constant presence of the armed forces in politics can discourage the development of a robust and independent civil society. The militarization of politics often results in the repression of dissenting voices and limits freedom of expression and political participation. For Bolivia to progress towards a full and stable democracy, it is crucial that the armed forces return to their constitutional role of defense and security without interfering in political processes. Only then can an environment be ensured where democratic institutions can flourish and meet the needs and aspirations of the Bolivian people. The attempted military coup on the 26th of June 2024 is a clear demonstration of the dangers of allowing the armed forces to intervene in a country's politics. Such action not only threatens democracy and stability, but also undermines the population's trust in the institutions meant to protect them. The coup's failure, due to a lack of internal support and the decisive response of President Luis Arce, highlights the importance of leadership committed to defending democratic order. It is crucial that Bolivia and other Latin American countries reinforce the constitutional role of the armed forces, limiting their involvement to matters of defence and security, far from political intrigues. However, it is equally important to criticise the potential candidacy of Evo Morales. His previous attempt to bypass constitutional limits to remain in power left a deep and divisive mark on Bolivian society. Although his policies brought economic and social benefits, the disregard for the popular will expressed in the plebiscite and the allegations of electoral fraud undermined the legitimacy of his government. For Bolivia to advance towards a true democracy, it is essential that all political leaders respect democratic rules and seek power in a fair and transparent manner. Only in this way can a stable, prosperous and democratic nation be built. What are your thoughts on the failed military coup in Bolivia? Do you think that in times of crisis, the military should intervene in politics, or should their role be limited solely to defending the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity? Share your opinion in the comments and let us know what other topics you would like to see in future videos. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel What is Happening if you haven't already. Also, check out these other 2 videos appearing here on the screen. Thank you very much for your support and see you next time.